The vaccine development, I think, is group working for the international community, not my job and your job. And we cannot do it isolatedly. And as my president announced on the video conference of WHO, China will, when we come out with the vaccine, we'll take it as a public good for the all. Of course, we'll share the vaccines.
Ambassador, I want to ask you about Hong Kong, because this bill, of course, has been controversial in Europe. There's some institutions, including the European Parliament, that say they worry that democracy is being removed from Hong Kong by the Chinese authorities. What do you say to that?
Well, when we talk about Hong Kong, we must keep in mind Hong Kong is a special administrative region of China. So Hong Kong affairs are China's internal affairs, and non-interference in others' internal affairs is a fundamental principle in international law. So the G7 statement yesterday and the European Parliament's joint motion for a resolution are interference in China's internal affairs, which we are firmly opposed to, and it's not acceptable.
So you think the European Parliament, for example, commenting on this, members of the European Parliament saying that the one nation, two system is a way forward, that's something that fundamentally China cannot agree to. This is something that is just for China to deal with.
So for any country, as you know, upholding the national security is the duty of the central government. European countries like the UK, like France, like Germany, and others, all have national security legislation. Yet in Hong Kong, there is no such legislation. The NPC decision aims to close the loophole. We should not look at this issue with the double standards. And one country, two systems is China's basic state policy. China's resolve to fully implement the one country, two systems will not change. Safeguarding national security is a building block for the sound implementation of one country, two systems, and for Hong Kong's stability and prosperity. The legislation will not change Hong Kong's capitalist system, its high degree of autonomy under the basic law, or the lifestyle of Hong Kong's residents.
Now let's talk about trade. Yesterday, the European Commission put out a white paper that doesn't mention China, but many people interpret it as talking about China, and they worry about foreign money, too much intervention perhaps in European companies. How do you read that? Do you think the investment environment for Chinese companies or backed by Chinese money has become more difficult now in Europe?
I've noticed that the EU issued the white paper, and we are studying the paper. It is hoped that the relevant EU measures will comply with the WTO rules, keep clear of protectionist moves, and refrain from creating new trade barriers under the pretext of subsidies. Recent measures taken by EU have got some Chinese investors concerned, to speak frankly, who are afraid that the EU is closing its door this is a worrying direction.